What's up, Floater Gang? We've got our special guest and friend Nick with us today, and we're going to talk about the in-season tournament now that the bracket is going to start. So, Nick, what team has surprised you the most so far?
So the team that surprised me the most is going to be the Orlando Magic. I mean, I really did not expect them to be the number. What are they right now? The number three seed, the number two
You,
seed. Um, Again, they were bottom of the table last year. Didn't make the playoffs. Just barely. I will add. But Franz Wagner leading the team in with points per game at 20.7 is the thing that surprised me the most. I mean, we all love Paulo Banchero. I thought he was going to take a step up from his I believe he averaged 18 points per game last year, and it's Franz Wagner. He takes a step. He was drafted eighth overall 2 years ago, 2021, and he really has pushed the team forward to surprise me. And I believe they're on like an 11 game win streak, 12 game win streak now,
It's a 9 game win streak right now.
9 game win streak. Thank you. Sorry.
You're good.
Uh, and that like to me, I didn't. I mean, I think they would. I thought they would be better than they were last year, but to be the second seed is ridiculous, especially in the West. We got teams like the Nuggets who aren't even, or like the Nuggets, the Mavs.
they're Florida.
Sorry, they're the East. Sorry, my bad. In the East, we have teams like the 76ers. Like I don't even know who's at the top of
The
the
Celtics and Bucks.
Celtics and Bucks. But I mean, there has been a lot of surprises, but that's the team that surprised me the most so far.
Yeah, I agree. And the crazy thing too is they started 5-5 in their first 10 games. Now they're 14-5 after that 9 game win streak. They've been blown out of the water, like you said, and their defense actually has been one of their top things this season, and their offense is now finally getting even better as well, to where they're winning by bigger margins overall in those past 9 games, especially. So they're definitely a team to watch out for this season.
I think the most electric player on that team to watch is Jalen Suggs because he just brings the energy, and it's just so fun to watch. I mean, it reminds me of like Caruso, Tony Allen type guy. And the team is just ridiculously fun to watch.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're 3-1 in the tournament. They actually literally just lost against the Nets, but they had beat the Celtics, and the Celtics were the ones that come out of that division, which kind of maybe brings up some certain potential concerns for the tournament setup. So unfortunate that they beat the Celtics, and yet the Celtics were the ones making out of that division because of point differential, having the same 3-1 record. But definitely a great team. I mean, I love the Magic. I'm excited for them this season and still on the road. Marvin, what's been your team that surprised you the most?
Like I said, I think the Orlando Magic is, even though, since we already said that, the Timberwolves, they've been fantastic, especially November, had the best sports record ever in a month, with 13-2. So they've been really good and surprising as well. Unfortunately, they also barely missed the wild card spot with a 34 point differential, unfortunately. But they actually had a plus minus of 0. But they were 3-1, and they've just been really good all November, so basically all season. And right now, Ant got hurt, so that's not looking too good for them, but they've been way better than at least all of us expected, and I think even everyone else expected as well.
Fun fact for you, I believe the Timberwolves they lost only their in-season games where Anthony Edwards was one of their leading like big three stats, rebounds, assists, points guy. When he wasn't one of their leading in those categories, they were winning their games. And I'm a big Ant fan. Just a fact on a small sample size.
And I don't like to take credit for things I was right about.
Really.
Let's not be obnoxious about it. But Rudy Gobert is so back, baby. I mean, number one odds for Defensive Player of the Year. He's been defending like a menace. He's the reason, or at least one of the reasons, the defense has been so good with Jaden McDaniels out. So shout out Rudy Gobert, making me look good.
I think it's kind of what we said at the beginning of the year. The Timberwolves have a chance of being a top three team if they get their team chemistry up, and they did that, and now they're the number one seed in the West.
And Cat is playing good defense too, something I did not foresee.
I mean, I don't think any one of us foresaw the Timberwolves even being this good right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is true. And to the Timberwolves point, Deacon especially for this one, but in general, and to the Timberwolves, do you think that the tournament so far, kind of what teams have almost made it, what teams are in the brackets, is this going to be kind of a foreshadow of the playoffs in months from now?
I think it's a good sign for sure. I mean, like obviously we've seen the intensity goes up in these games. Teams are really playing defense, they're playing hard. So in that aspect, I think it is. But also, in the case of playoff series, you got to beat a team 4 times, and you're constantly making adjustments. So I don't think I don't think if you beat someone in the in-season tournament, that's going to reflect like, oh yeah, they got a better chance of beating them in the playoffs. Because I think it's just a matter of a big part in playoff series is coaching, and I think since it's a one game, who's better in this one game, it doesn't reflect the same.
Yeah, to your point, there's kind of a point I want to hit on that because, like you said, you do have a lot more strategy. But we did kind of with the NBA's new schedule, they're trying to stay in a city and have like kind of back-to-back games against the same team. And one of those was the Pacers and the Sixers. The Pacers took that one. They're 4-0. They're kind of that surprise team. I mean, I'm excited for them. That's a team I was high on, and they're doing better than I kind of expected, at least in the tournament. And they look great. Defense needs to step up. But another thing is the 76ers based off right just a 4 game tournament, they're having all the same problems that they do in the playoffs. They kind of like they come off an 8 game win streak heading into the in-season tournament, and they go right off the bat and they play the Pacers 2 days before. They win that game, and then right when it comes to game two, a little more kind of regrouping, strategizing from both teams, the Pacers now take it. So that's kind of an issue we've seen from the Sixers, and I've been pretty big on them, seeing them play. I like how they've looked compared to the previous years, but they lose that game after an 8 game win streak, and they just honestly they barely beat the Pistons. They beat them by only 8 points. They lose to a Donovan Mitchell-less Cavs. Maxey had a bad game towards the end, and Embiid fouls out. It's just kind of there's a lot of concerns again around the Sixers when right the competition increases when there's more strategy when there's more intenseness. It's kind of like are they going to be able to pull through and take a win? That's kind of a concern I had with the Sixers. Kind of just okay, same old, I guess.
I correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not too sure about this, but I'm pretty sure Joel Embiid was out for the second Pacers game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, so which does not help the Sixers at all whatsoever because he's their best guy. And then Max, I just feel like has taken a downfall on the team. He's been horrible. His field goal shooting percentage has not been great. He just can't hit the shots that he's been able to, and I think he's kind of taking more of a normal role, not as like dominant as he was in the beginning of the season. And now it's kind of all on Joel. So I think Maxi kind of just dropped down, which dropped down the team, which shows how valuable he is when he's super good. But I don't know.
I mean, there's bad things and there's good things about the 76ers. One of the good things is Joel Embiid's playmaking. He's averaging around 7 assists per game this year. And something that really he struggled with in the playoffs. Lauren mentioned it frequently. He kind of panicked in those double team situations, or it kind of threw off the whole Sixers vibe. But he's been playmaking great this year, and I think just this stretch shows that they need another offensive threat, or just another guy that can create their shot consistently. And they got the assets to do it. So I think they will pull the trigger. I'm not talking necessarily Zach LaVine. Just maybe like a Terry Rozier type or something to bring off the bench.
Speaking of that, though, they just played the Celtics without Maxey and Embiid, and they won that game. So that could be a very, very positive sign for the Sixers in terms of what you were talking about, having that second, third, fourth, fifth scorer even. Batum wasn't playing either, who we know is a really solid, not a high volume, but a high percentage shooter as well. So I think that's a very positive sign for Philly. We'll see what they do with that information now, but I think
You
that could
say
be
they
very
won that
positive.
game or they almost won that game?
They almost
They won that game.
Oh no, they lost that game.
I thought
Also,
they won.
to make that a fact, and also guys, Embiid played that game against the Pacers. He was at 39,
I
12, and
said
6.
again. Oh, that one.
The
He
second
did
game?
play, yes, against the Pacers. He played both those games. They lost that second one with Embiid on the court, and the Sixers did lose to the Celtics last. They did great. They were with them for most. So the concerns kind of remain the same for me on them.
But yeah, and speaking on Marvin's point, Pat Bev is not going to drop a nearly 30-point triple double every game. You know,
Yeah.
I think he would.
you think he would? Yeah,
That's
I
kind of what
mean,
he's been known for.
I'm underrating him a little bit. I don't know. But, yeah.
And just some Maxi Love, guys. He's averaging 32 points the last two games. He's averaging 31 the last three. Um, he's had a few rough games, but he has not been playing bad all recently. And in fact, he's with those stats actually still maintaining the almost unmaintainable stats he had to start off the season.
Yeah.
It's true.
To go
But
back
that
to
is,
the original, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
To go back to the original question on like, will the tournament predict how the team plays in the playoffs? I think it's a good teaser because obviously teams are going to be playing with a higher level of intensity. They're going to be more physical because these are not just normal regular season games. These actually mean something. It means like for standing in the season tournament. Now that we're in the elimination round, I think we'll give it even more of a taste of how like it's going to be like that playoff type atmosphere. You know, this game is on the line. But at the same time, we're still only what 18, 19, 20 games into the season. Teams are going to change. Teams are going to make those adjustments. You know, if a team that like has the talent to play at a high level, but there's just either some chemistry issues or whatever it may be, like they're going to have that time to make adjustments, to change, you know, to get in like in better form and for the playoffs, which are months away. So while I do think in the regard that yes, teams are going to be playing at a higher level, teams are going to be playing it with higher intensity, more physical. I think that there's a lot of teams that just still need a couple more months to figure stuff out before the playoffs. And you know, there's some teams that might sneak into the play-in and make a deep run, like the Miami Heat last year, 8th seed making it to the finals. We never know like who's going to have that like late burst, which always happens. There's always that team that has a late burst, a late 10-game win streak at the very end of the season. That in their playoff implications, they jump the ladder. So I don't know, and I would say generally maybe, but mostly no. I think a lot of teams are going to be different when come February or March.
I mean, we see it year after year, like the Lakers last year. I mean, a couple years ago when LeBron first came back to the Cavs, they started like 20-20, and then they went on to go to the final.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think to Nick's point, I think the in-season tournament will help some teams make some moves that will be needed based off what they see through some of those games. I don't think it'll be a determining factor, but I think it could be an eye-opener to some teams to be like, okay, maybe we need to change some things, try to see if we can get some trades going. But I also think the in-season tournament is good for a playoff foreshadow in the sense of potentially seeing some sleeper teams early that could potentially be a higher seed, like the Magic potentially. So I think there could be some of that, but I don't think it'll be a necessarily like, hey, these are our best teams. The teams that made the play-in season, the in-season tournament will be the top 4 teams in those conferences, but I do think it does show some sleeper teams like the Miami Heat potentially from last year being the 8th seed and making the finals. So I think that'll be interesting to see how that does play out come playoff time.
Sitting here listening, honestly, the more I think about it, I don't think the play-in tournament or in-season tournament has anything to do with playoffs. The environment is completely different. There's not as much on the line, or like because you're going to the finals right now. You're just in the season, win a trophy, or that's not as important.
And you win $500,000.
And these are competitive professional athletes.
That's
Yeah,
true, but $500,000 to people who make way more than that.
Yeah, but then
The
$500,000.
superstars.
Well, that's why I think that young teams are taking it more seriously, and it's fun to watch these young teams really go hard because that's like half their salary.
I agree with that.
I just think the environment is not the same. Like the fans, the crowd is not as full as it would be in the playoffs, and I just don't think there's as much on the line for them.
See, I get what you're saying, Valentine, but it's still a step up from regular season games.
Oh yeah.
There's gonna be more fans. The players are gonna take it like even subconsciously they're gonna take it more serious because right, especially right now because we're in the elimination round. They lose, they go home. So if you lose a regular season game, okay, add one other one to the loss column. But I mean, like they don't have actually any elimination on the line. Like for the in season tournament, they go home. So even like just it's a subconscious competitive mindset, they're gonna be playing harder.
I mean, they're pro athletes. They are highly competitive. That's the only reason they've made it this far. At least 95% of them are highly competitive. And in fact, to your point, I mean, yeah, right, teams aren't as good, but let me run you through it according to the point differential and the record. Number one in the East, Milwaukee Bucks. Number two, Pacers. Three, Celtics. Four, the New York Knicks. Five, Cavs. Six, Magic. Seven, Nets. Eight, Sixers. Nine, Heat. So, according to that, right, you'd expect the Heat to be in there, but we've seen them struggle. But I think that's a pretty accurate set. But Pacers number two, probably not. But we're seeing these teams that even despite, right, their record kind of like the Cavs, they're in the Heat right now. They're like 8-9 in the East. In this tournament, I mean, the Heat didn't end up that well. They were in a little bit of a tougher group. But the Cavs still right number five in this tournament. We see kind of what teams have competitive juices, what teams are able to step it up when right, things really go down the wire when teams are competing. We heard all the players, you can see it on the court, right? Things were competitive on that court. It's a much different environment. I agree. Everybody wants to win the Larry O'Brien trophy. They don't care much about the NBA Cup, but they're competitors. And they're coming to compete. And obviously, it's not a 4-game series where you have that time to adjust, to make adjustments, and to kind of strategize a little more. But there's definitely a lot more of that going on in this tournament.
It's
Jajon,
Yeah,
ironic. It's
it's
ironic how
more
you said the
valuable than a
Heat. Go ahead.
it's more valuable definitely than a regular season game, but it's still not as high as a playoff game.
Of
That's
course,
just what I'm saying.
of course
of
not.
course
I
not, but
mean,
it's a foreshadow. I think it's honestly, I think it's a really good foreshadow. I don't think seed by seed, but I think as teams that are going to be competitive, absolutely. I mean, Lakers easy group. They were number one. I don't think they're going to be number one seed, but we see, hey, I mean, they were a really easy group to be fair. Them and the Suns, kind of hard to take a lot from them making it because their group, everybody else sucked and they've had their own struggles, but they were able to win with point differential and they were able to kind of win those games they needed to win. Kings showed right, they're highly competitive. They want to kind of keep going where they left off. I wasn't sure that we would see that, but just after seeing this tournament, I'm a lot more convinced on the Kings being a very, very, very legit playoff team come playoff time.
But
Pelicans, something we knew. If the Pelicans are healthy, which by the way, weren't even healthy, they were missing McCollum for most of this tournament. You better pray you're not playing a healthy Pelicans team in the playoffs. Doesn't matter
okay,
who you are. You better pray you're not playing a healthy Pelicans team.
okay, but how often do we see a healthy Pelicans team? Let's be
Right
honest here.
now,
We
for
didn't even see it for the tournament, and they're the number 3 seed.
Yeah, but they're not winning. I don't think they'll win multiple playoff series without McCollum or without Zion or
and
without Brandon
yeah,
Ingram.
Oh,
Uh,
exactly.
but
they
I
got Trey
mean,
Murphy back recently too, which is a big bump.
he had a
Big.
great game as well.
And yeah, the Pelicans have been super inconsistent. Obviously injuries were a huge factor. I think just the more reps they get though, is the more dangerous they get because they get used to each other and all that. So yeah, I expect a big bump from the Pelicans in a little bit.
I
it,
honestly,
it, go ahead,
go
Nick.
ahead. Okay. I honestly don't expect a big run from the Pelicans. I think a big part of basketball, a big part of any team sport is longevity and the ability to stay healthy. I mean, sometimes there's some seasons where it comes down to whoever's team is the healthiest. And the Pelicans just have never been able to stay healthy, especially Zion. Zion has never been able to stay healthy. And because of that, I just don't think that they're going to be able to make a deep run in the playoffs, without like the chances that they come into the playoffs with all five of their starters being healthy, like, come on. It's not going to happen.
You're right. I mean, it's unlikely, but again, CJ out, Trey Murphy out. You have all these injuries, and they're competing on this stage. And Zion Williamson is only still half trying. Now you come to the playoffs, and that's part of the reason they want to save him for the playoffs. I'm not making a bet that they're going to be healthy, but come playoff time and they are healthy, you pray to God you're not playing them. You
It's
pray to God you're not playing the Pelicans.
the same thing we
But
said with the Clippers in the past every year. Like, oh, they're going to win it all if they're healthy this year, and they just never are healthy.
But again, the
Exactly.
Clippers, they competed with the Suns while missing both of those stars. Like, right? just one of those guys, and it didn't happen, but they were this close, right? They were this close to having just one of those guys, and they probably would have won that series. Pelicans, same thing. You're missing CJ McCollum, and he's not a guy that generally struggled with injuries. If you have that guy, and you're maybe missing somebody, maybe Trey Murphy was gone too. I mean, all we're seeing is that this is a very, very dangerous team, shorthanded.
I don't think
But
beating. Sorry, Valentin. You can go. Go ahead.
but like to your point, there's a 7-game series. You have to win 4 games in the playoffs. We've seen the Suns versus, for instance, the Suns versus Mavs in the semifinals of Western Conference like a couple years ago. Mavs were down 2-0 in the series, or 2-0 in the series. The Suns dominated those games. The Mavs come back strong and absolutely just dominate every other game. Again in the championship, Suns versus Bucks. Bucks were down 2-0. Bucks came back and dominated and won the championship. There's so many chances for them to come back. We've seen it happen. I don't think it shows anything into the playoffs.
I think.
Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry. I think beating the Suns isn't a great accolade at the moment. I think the Suns still have a lot of things to figure out, right? They're sitting at 11-8 right now. I mean, they had a lot of high expectations coming into this season. I mean, they made the finals 2 years ago. I mean, last year they lost to the Mavs, or was that the year before? However, I think they have a lot of chemistry issues to figure out, as well as Devin Booker missing a couple of games. I don't know. I think the Suns are going to be a completely different team in February, in March, and come playoff time. I think they're going to figure things out. They're going to. It's just some small adjustments with like chemistry issues, and
No, yeah, but
I need to figure some stuff out.
other teams have done the same. Like Nuggets, they came back twice in the bubble from 3-1 and won the series. So I don't know. I just think you're playing one game, then you're eliminated. In the playoffs, there's so many other chances to come back and win it, and we've seen it happen multiple times.
I'm not talking about the tournament hasn't started. I'm talking about just kind of the qualifier round, but those are 4 games, not a lot. But I mean, I'm just saying, like looking out, if you look at the list of teams where they're ranked, it seems almost exactly where at least it seems like those are the same 8 teams that you're going to see in the playoffs. And you're seeing like for the Bucks, they've looked kind of catastrophic for half the season. They're 4-0 in the season, right, in those competitive games, right? All their guys are stepping up. Like we're seeing these teams that seem to struggle kind of throughout some of the regular season. They're trying to figure things out. But when things get serious, when things go in-season tournament mode, okay, like let's step up. Let's get a dub right here. Let's get a dub right here. And that's exactly the same with Cavs, right? The Cavs, right? They kind of struggled this so far. They've dealt with a lot of injuries for the tournament. They didn't make it, but they're the next one for the wild card. They were 3-1, 29-point differential. Like these are teams that okay, like we're worried about them looking at the regular season standings, but looking at the in-season tournament, we're seeing okay, they should probably be all right.
So you're saying, looking at the in-season tournament, it's almost like a sneak peek of who's going to step up later in this regular season, or who's going to.
It's a foreshadow of right what teams will be competitive in the playoffs. I'm not saying right we haven't seen who's going to win the bracket yet. I'm not saying at all the bracket right now will result in who's going to make it to the Western Conference Finals, who's going to be in the finals. I'm saying these teams that are playing competitive in this tournament, that are all competing, that either did already make it or that were just outside of it, are the same teams we're going to see competitive in the playoffs. For the most part, there might be one or two that are.
I don't think it's
There's not
crazy
the
to say
case.
that at all. I don't think it's
I
crazy
think
at
I
all to
think
say
it's
that.
dead on. I mean, look at it.
Like,
I think it's
go
just
ahead.
that. I think that's very true. No, go ahead.
But what Valentin was saying, it's one game. For like the Thunder's case, they had one of the better point differentials in the West, but they lost 3 close games to the Warriors, which was a little funky. But and then the Wolves and the Kings. And so I think a team like I think the group play. I mean, like what you said, I think a lot of the teams will still be there, but I do think there is some flaws to like in terms of what it reflects toward what teams are competitive and what teams will be competitive.
To your point, are you guys worried about the Thunder? So yes, they have big point differentials because they blew out the Spurs. That's the only reason why. They had obviously a positive point
But
differential.
also because they barely lost, so therefore the differential didn't go down very much because the games they lost were close.
I mean,
Yes,
and
yeah.
they lost the Warriors by 2 without Shea, and then they barely lost to Timberwolves, who are the 1 seed, and then they barely lost to the Kings, who are also very competitive.
And these are all teams that have, well, these are not all of them, but some of these teams are teams that are, for one, either have veteranship or they have bigs. Does that speak to any needs that you think the Thunder have for this season? A physical big or a veteran to have on the team?
Oh, so the Thunder have struggled with rebounding. They're not one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. And I think that does have to be. I mean, they have really one true center, which is Chet, and he's obviously on the weaker side for centers. I mean,
Halloween. Stick
yeah,
man.
yeah, for sure. I mean, and offensively, he's been great, and defensively, like blocking shots, it's been great. But like, I mean, no one's going to stop Jokic and Embiid, but he has struggled with those guys, and Gobert, frankly, dominated him, in the post in their game. So I don't think they need to trade for some all-star big man, some like a Jonas Valanciunas type. I think if they could get like another big, like in the Dwight Howard mold, I think they're in terms of the rebounding struggles and what they struggle with in terms of offensive rebound in particular, or defensive rebounding. Other teams offensive rebound on them a lot. Anyway, I think they'll be just fine. I mean, and they're right in these games. They haven't really been blown out at all this season. So
I know me and Lauren talked about it when we were at the OKC game. Shea's an issue, I think, especially in the clutch. He just does not pass the ball. We saw for what is it, Lauren? 6 minutes straight, he was not passing the ball, taking horrible shots, making bad decisions.
Yeah, I think Valentine's point is not that he's not good in the clutch. I think his point is his lack of
Decision-making.
playmaking ability, lack of getting his teammates involved. Because we saw Chet, right? He hit that big one against, was it the Warriors? It was the Warriors, right? And Chet, I mean, he's so efficient. Like he looks so good right now. He looks amazing. And it's just some of his little lack of like come on, get your guy like Chet, get him involved. Like get your guys involved. Like he can make a shot. He's 7 foot whatever, 7'3", 7'4". I don't know how tall. I don't remember. He's huge, and he's insanely efficient from three. You're drawing a double or triple team. Just keep kicking the ball out. Like go score it. Like I know he can score. He was one of my favorite clutch player of the year for the first half of last season. But you gotta be able to make the right play. You gotta be able to make the right play. And sometimes there's a little bit of lack of that. Like, yo, I'm just gonna go up every time. You go up every time, dude. Come on, dude. Like, go take your shot. You got. You're a tough bucket getter. You can get 40 points any night.
A lot of that just comes because he's so young. Like we do forget that the Thunder are one of the youngest teams in the NBA, which is to my next point. And I honestly think, I truly believe the Thunder are one all-star veteran big man away from a deep run into the playoffs, because all they need is that veteran presence or that experience, and for that big man to help out Chet, because Chet is not. Let's just be honest here, guys. Chet is not going to back down Nikola Jokic. He's not going to back down Rudy Gobert. He's just not. Like
Unleash him as power forward.
They need a veteran big that's gonna have a veteran, and emphasis on the veteran, because again they are the youngest team in the league, and we see so often, again, like the Thunder team in, what was it, 2013? It's such a young Thunder team with Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. They were so young, and they lost because they were so inexperienced, and they just made like, it's the decision making, it's the awareness that like comes with experience. That I think that's the thing that's the Thunder is lacking, as well as a big. But if they get that figured out, then I really do truly believe that they can make a deep run into the playoffs.
yeah, so I mean I agree with you. I don't think they need like a center per se, but a bigger forward,
a presence, a paint presence. Yeah.
I mean, maybe like a Pascal Siakam. I don't know, but also to speak on Valentine's point about Shea. Shea was kind of he wasn't looking for his teammates versus Philly. Versus Minnesota, I thought he completely reversed that and did really well in the clutch. He found Aaron Wiggins, he found Chet for a three, and he made good shots. He took good shots, and then ultimately they just came up short. But I thought he really turned the tide in that next game, which is something that great players do. They bounce back from bad games. And he didn't even play bad versus Philly. It was really just that little stretch at the end. But yeah, I think the Thunder are. I think they're gonna be just fine. Yeah. I mean, they're the 2 seed right now, or maybe the 3 seed. I don't know.
They're 3 seed.
And the
Yeah,
amount of draft capital they have for these next couple of years is absolutely unreal. Like
they can go.
they
They can
have
go get whoever they want. I mean, if there's something
they have the
available,
draft capital to get a big name player. They really do. I mean, if they want to make a push this year, which I think they could,
yeah.
they have the draft capital to make that happen. But
I mean, they're probably the biggest contender to make a big trade deadline move. Or,
for sure,
I mean, it's got to be the right player. Obviously, I don't think they should trade
definitely.
back Levine. But the next guy that asks out OKC is going to be that destination. That's like, oh, they can go get it.
Do you have any names that you have in your mind?
I mean, before the season, I was thinking Joel Embiid, but it's looking like the Sixers are,
Holding on
doing
to
well.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cat was another name that I was thinking about, but Timberwolves are obviously doing really well.
Mhm.
Something I thought about a lot. Larry Markkinen. I think
Okay, I like that. I
system,
like that.
good defender. He's unselfish. So yeah, I think he would slide right in.
I'm
No,
sorry.
dude.
Is he still on the Jazz?
Yeah, he's still in Utah.
And they could if they're trying to rebuild, they're kind of directionless a little bit right now, surprisingly under Danny Ainge. But Danny Ainge kind of guy that would just make that deal. You trade most improved player, all-star level kind of guy, from good first round picks, go in on a full kind of rebuild.
I
He
don't
was
think they're directionless. I think Will Hardy is just too good of a coach.
No, I think they're directionless. I
Well,
have
so
no
like
clue what they're thinking about right
yeah.
now.
I think they want to tank, but they're too good to tank, which is it.
But their players are too good. THT, Jordan Clarkson, Laurie Markkinen,
Yeah.
Walker Kessler. They have all these. They're just
Sexton.
kind of random picks. They don't fit. Colin Sexton, right? They're all pretty good. None of them are superstars though. At really anything like they have a bunch of just like pretty talented guys that don't really fit and that kind of need to have like an actual superstar around them. Just a lot of good guys kind of thrown onto a team.
They're
And
good role players.
Yeah, amazing. A bunch of amazing role players.
I mean, yeah, like
with the
Laurie Markkinen is probably like a second option on a good team.
yeah. But with the way the current NBA is, like just the way it works, that's the worst position a team could be in. When they're not bad enough to get a really, really high draft pick, but they're not good enough to make the play-in or the playoffs, that's the worst spot because
Or young guys.
what do they do?
They don't have a bunch of young guys they're betting on to improve. Like they drafted Conte George, great draft pick, but like Laurie Markkinen is not like you're not you're not waiting for him to reach next level. Jordan
How old is
Clarkson,
Larry?
I think he's like 28. Like he's great, and I'm not saying like he's out of his prime. He's right in the middle of it, but you're not waiting on all these guys to develop. Is what I'm saying, right? You're not waiting on John Collins to like develop. You're not waiting on Jordan Clarkson to develop, right? The Thunder, young team, they're great, gonna get better. It's fine, and they're
So
right now looking great.
What do you think they should do? They have some draft capital from the Rudy Gobert trade and the Donovan Mitchell trade.
Yeah. Well, I think they just do what the Thunder did. Trade all your assets basically for picks, and then just let the young guys develop. And we see how good of shape they are now.
I mean, we cut off here a little bit with the Jazz, but some interesting thing for sure. Any last thoughts here before we head off? Any last second thoughts on the tournament that anyone would like to hit?
Atlanta Hawks, disappointing once again.
Disappointing team, yeah. I mean,
Maybe it's not
that's a whole
they do.
thing I could talk
It's
about.
what they do.
The Hawks are gosh.
They're brutal. I mean, nothing
No,
has changed.
They need to do something because right now they're kind of sitting little idle a little bit. I mean, I liked the Murray trade. I really did. But they're sitting at 9-9, what, the 9th, 8th, 9th seed in the play-in, right?
and Murray and Young don't really fit. One of
They
them plays
don't
good,
fit.
the other plays bad. They don't fit.
Yeah. They need to make a pick that like plays off of each other. They need to make some moves and soon, I would say.
I think Kong should take the starting spot over Clint Capella, get Clint Capella out of there, or get him as a backup. I think he'd be a good backup piece, and he's a vet, so he knows what he's kind of doing. And then Trae Young is just, I think, too valuable, and he's been too great for like the Hawks. He's been amazing. He just had like 45 points the other night. DeJounte Murray is just not fitting in with the Hawks, I don't think. I think, a role player that fits well with the Hawks. Because I think
Bounty,
they have everything.
you have a Hawks jersey on right now, okay? Do you think they keep Keep Young or keep Murray? Because I'm gonna be honest, one's gonna have to go for things to work.
Keep Young
They're
for
just not
sure.
okay.
Yeah.
What are some possible
I mean,
destinations for Murray?
Philly.
Honestly, a lot of teams could use him. He's such a diverse point guard, excellent defender. Not a great shooter, but he's capable and he can make plays. Athletic.
Yeah. Jazz maybe for like Jordan Clarkson or something. I don't know.
San Antonio.
Yeah, I was about to say, ironically enough, the Spurs are really in need of a point guard right now.
Yeah.
Bro,
Get him back.
we had so many, bro. We traded Derek White, DeJounte Murray. Come on, dude. This when we had like Lonnie Walker. This when we had like too many point guards. We kept drafting more, and now we need a point guard.
Well, it's because we lost
Dude,
Primo.
come on, dude.
Yeah, it's because Joshua Freeman decided to be weird
So
and
annoying.
flex his,
I like all our point guards. I like getting
dingling.
rid of all of them because we have too many, and then we don't have any. So cool.
We still have Trey Jones and Sohan.
Well, okay, okay. Jeremy Sohan, okay.
He's
Jeremy
not a
Sohan
point
is
guard.
not a point guard.
He's
He is
not a
not a
point
point guard. He will never be a point guard. He cannot play on the ball. He is. I mean, he's a decent role player when he plays off the ball. When he plays on the ball, he's a liability to the team. I mean, don't get me wrong. He played great. I think last night he had, or the night before, he had like 30 something.
Yeah, 33
points.
career high.
That's
But-
an anomaly. That's an
Yeah.
anomaly.
Yeah. I mean, Spurs need a point guard. I mean, I don't really have much to say about the Spurs. They look pretty atrocious. But
Yeah.
Anyway,
was
that was
it?
our in-season.
Straight losses.
Sorry, go ahead.
That was our in-season tournament recap plus some more. Anyway, tune in soon. Valentine's Cavs are out, Marvin's Sixers are out, and Deacon's T-Wolves are out. So they all get to swim 3 laps. We'll make that
Yes.
6. They're back around in the cold pool. If the Celtics win it all, I don't gotta swim nothing, baby.
Celtics are going out against Pacers next round.
But anyway, make sure to check out all our videos, subscribe. Floater Gang out, baby.